Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Purya and in this video I'm going to show you how to install Inmanta. So let's go to Google and type install Inmanta. Click on the first link. Okay, as you can see, we are having instructions and steps for different operating systems and flavors. If you recall, I'm on a Red Hat based virtual machine, Rocky, and I'm gonna follow the instruction for RHEL 8. But before going through the installation process, let me talk about the architecture. So we click on the architecture here. In this diagram, we can see different functional blocks of Inmanta. On the left, we are having the compiler, which is converting the source code into deployable resources and then exports them to Inmanta server. We can interact with Inmanta server through CLI and Web Console. Inmanta server is in charge of the deployment process. As we can see, it keeps track of all the agents and the current state of all projects, and also uses PostgreSQL to store its state. Then we are having agents. Agents are the actual building blocks that go ahead and deploy our configuration to the targets. These targets can be routers, firewalls, a server in AWS, what have you. Then we are having different usage modes. Usage mode refers to how we put these components together. Let's quickly go over them. So first, we are having embedded or all-in-one, which means whenever we use this Inmanta deploy command, all the required components and services come to life, and when the deployment is done, they get terminated. This is good for quickly testing something, and you don't use this in production at all. Then we are having push to server, which will be the similar approach that we are going to take in this series. In push to server mode, we are having two separate components. One, an external machine having Inmanta server and its components installed, and the other one, a developer machine, which is also having Inmanta installed. The compilation is happening on the developer machine, then it gets pushed to the Inmanta server, and Inmanta server is in charge of deploying those configuration changes on the targets. This is good for small setups, and it gives a faster feedback to developers. And by the way, I'm also going to use this model in this video series. In autonomous server mode, the compilation does not happen on the developer machine anymore, and in fact, it happens on Inmanta server. This is for collaborative and mission critical infrastructures, and this is the mode you have to go when you're deploying on the production. Now, let's get back to the installation procedure. Okay, the first step is adding Inmanta's repository. Let's copy all of this here. Go to my terminal, paste it in, done. Now let's install Inmanta. And notice we are installing Inmanta OSS, which is our open source software, Inmanta server, and the agents on a single machine. Paste. It's going to take a while. Okay, let's go to the next step. Now we need to configure the server. The first step is optional, which is configuring SSL and authentication. Since it's a test setup and I'm just using it for demonstration, we don't really need to go through that step. Then we have to install Postgres. Let's copy this from here. Clear my screen, paste it in. Yes. And done. Now we need to configure this Postgres server to be able to accept connections from Inmanta. First, we need to initialize the database. Let's copy this here. Done. Let's also make sure it survives reboots. Good, let me clear my screen. Now let's create the Inmanta database and user. I will choose Inmanta as password as well. Okay. Now we need to make some changes for the authentication method. By default, Postgres is using the IDENT protocol, which is not the most secure protocol out there. Let's just first open this file here. Sudo nano. I'm gonna hit Control End on my keyboard to go to the end of the file. And these are the lines that we have to modify, this one and this one here. Again, we are on a demo setup. I'm just gonna change it to MD5, but if you're in a real production environment, maybe you want to use Scrum SHA 256 and SSL. MD5, save, exit. Let's go back. Now, for these changes to take effect, we need to restart the Postgres service. Let's quickly do that. Perfect. Now we need to instruct Inmanta on how to connect to the database. For that, we need to feed this information into this file in this path. Let's just view it at the moment. Sudo nano. It's empty. Let's quickly steal this from here. The host is gonna be my local machine. But if you are having your Postgres on a different server, this is where you put the information and you provide the IP address here. The password is Inmanta. Save. Okay. Now, if you are having virtual machines that you're gonna use to install Inmanta agent on them, we need to provide the Inmanta server IP address in this file. Then it gets pushed to those agents and they know how to get back to us. At the moment it should be empty. Let me just quickly grab this. Go back to my terminal, sudo nano. It's empty. Let's quickly populate it. I don't know the IP address. There we go. By the way, one important point here. If you're using SSL, make sure to use a host name, and that host name should match the host name inside of your SSL certificate. Okay, let's go to the next steps. Here we can also configure SSH for Inmanta user. This is used for checking out Git repositories. We are not going to do anything with Git repositories in this series, so I'm going to skip this step as well. We can also change the bind address and port that server is listening on. By default, we are listening on localhost and port 888, as you can see here. We can also change the IP address and port that the server is listening on. I would like to listen on all the interfaces, so I'll need to change this file one more time. Let's grab all of this here. Paste them in. we don't need this part. The bind would be quadruple zeros, and the port, I don't need to change this. I'll leave it to quadruple 8. So I just remove this line, save. Let's make sure we are also surviving a reboot. Let's check the listening ports. And there we have it. We are done with the server installation part. If you remember, there is a development side to it as well. Let's quickly go back to the diagram for a quick refresher. So let's go to architecture, push to server. We are done with this part. Now we need to do this part. Let's go back to my terminal. For that, I'm gonna create a Python virtual environment and install Inmanta inside of it as well. I'm gonna do it at the source of my user directory inside .virtualenv folder. So the benefit of doing this is your IDE and text editors can pick this up and activate your environments based on the project that you're working on. Now Python 3-m venv, we'll give it the path .virtualenvs. I'm gonna name my virtual environment Inmanta as well. Now let's activate it. Virtualenvs, Inmanta bin activate. Okay, now we need to install Inmanta. The command for that is pip install Inmanta. Okay, just to make sure that we're on the same page, let me show you what we've achieved so far and what is the status. I have prepared the diagram. Let's go bring it up. All right. Here at the bottom, we can see this is my laptop. I'm using SSH and HTTPS to interact with this virtual machine we just created. We used Container Lab to spin up 2 Juniper routers. Then we did Inmanta server installation part here. And this part is the Python virtual environment we just created and installed Inmanta in it. Now, let's go to the web console and make sure the setup was successful. For that, I'll open a new tab. Let's go to 192. There we go. And voila, the web console is here, and it means we've done all the steps properly. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to use Juniper examples to apply the configuration on the routers. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, let us know in the comments, and see you in the next video.